So welcome everyone to this info session on the Pulitzer Center Reporting Fellowship. My name is Aaliyah McCord, and I'm the Associate Director of the African Studies Program here at UW-Madison. I want to emphasize that although we are honored to be facilitating this fellowship this year through African Studies, anyone interested in reporting anywhere in the world is eligible for this, right? You don't have to study something in Africa. I do want to emphasize that. African Studies is stepping in to facilitate this, but it's not limited to our African Studies students. So I don't want to take too much time today. I see some familiar names out there. I'm really glad to see some of you here and thrilled that you're thinking of applying. I want to go ahead and turn things over to Libby Moeller, who is the reporting fellow editorial coordinator, and she's going to give us the information on how this fellowship actually works. Libby, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Aaliyah. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for taking the time to join yet another Zoom. I really appreciate that so many of you are interested in the fellowship. I also wanted to mention that Lawrence Andrea is here. Lawrence was our 2020, our inaugural fellow actually from Wisconsin. So during my slides, I'm going to give him just a couple minutes to share something about his fellowship experience. And Lawrence, if you have time, you can also feel free to stay on after for questions, but if you have to go, no worries. So as Aaliyah said, my name is Libby. I am the editorial coordinator for this program. And yeah, actually with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and share my slides with you guys. So I always like to start off with this first important question: what is the Pulitzer Center? On your screen now, you're seeing our mission statement, and that mission revolves around raising awareness of what we call underreported global issues. The way that we do that is through directly supporting quality journalism across basically any media platform. And we bring that journalism to the public, to the people, to our education partners through our outreach programs. Another important question: what is this reporting fellowship? So now on screen, you are seeing our 2021 cohort of reporting fellows. All of these students come from our campus consortium partner schools, and that network includes a mix of state universities, liberal arts colleges, HBCUs, community colleges, schools of journalism, schools of public health, and we have 2 international partners as well. So this is going to be an opportunity for a student to tell an underreported story and gain really valuable journalism experience and writing samples. You're going to receive a stipend of $5,000 to cover any reporting costs that you have. And you'll join our Pulitzer Center network, which includes all of the professional journalists who we support, the education partners who we work with, and all of the alums of this program. We've been facilitating the fellowship for more than 10 years now. So we've really developed a pretty far-reaching and diverse group of alums who, some of them are still in journalism, some of them are in completely different fields. You'll also have the opportunity to broaden the impact or the reach of your reporting through outreach opportunities that we can facilitate with you at Pulitzer Center. So I wanted to show a little bit about the reporting fellowship community. All of these photos are from pre-COVID times. And in those times, we were able to bring fellows together for happy hours in the DC area, various dinners. We love for our alums to go back to the campuses that they graduated from and talk about the fellowship. And in the middle here is a photo from our 2019 Washington weekend. Washington weekend is meant to be this weekend-long event that kind of culminates the reporting fellowship. You get to share your work with the rest of your class. You get to meet us at Pulitzer Center, meet some of the professional journalists who we support. So like I said, that's from 2019. We did end up having a virtual Washington weekend in October of 2021, which still was really fun. And we're hoping that maybe in 2022, we can bring people back together to DC. One way that we've tried to keep the community strong and going throughout the pandemic and throughout this time on Zoom is hosting these various Zooms with professional journalists who are associated with the Pulitzer Center. So on your screen now, you're seeing the names of just some recent people we've had who were able to come speak with our reporting fellows on Zoom. Down here in the corner is just one example of the type of topic that they've been able to hear about. And then lastly, I want to just show you guys this highlights video, which is from our 2020 and 2021 virtual Washington weekend. As I said, this took place last October. And this highlights video will give you a pretty good idea of the types of stories that students can report on with this fellowship and some things that students were able to take away from this experience.
When I was in middle school, I had a writing teacher, and she always told us the best way to write a story is to find the watermelon seed and blow it up into the watermelon.
There are so many stories out there, and even just a little detail, from a little detail, a beautiful story can unravel.
Aim high, be resourceful, and also give yourself grace.
Everyone you meet can help elevate your story in some way, even if you're expecting it or not.
Many of the documentaries that I've worked on, have never been the story that I started out with, and it becomes the story that it actually should be.
What was originally going to be like a sad story about kidnappings and disappearance to one I think about hope and the humanity of everyone involved.
If I didn't write these stories, these voices would never be heard. We all have created something that will only make the world a better place.
Resonating with people and understanding their stories is obviously the secret to good journalism.
And that's why, you write these stories and you tell these stories because you care and because you want others to care about it as well.
And it actually gives me hope for journalism because we know that it's under attack in many quarters. And it makes me happy to see that there are people who are willing to go out and will tell the stories that need to be told.
If you're doing work that is informing the communities that you're reporting in, while also raising those issues to a larger audience, that's the best journalism you can be doing.
It reminded me just how healing journalism can be just as a human, and to just answer questions you might just have, as a reader, as, a person.
And the reason I was inspired to go into journalism was to try to provide some flesh to those stick figure portrayals of people like me, like my mom.
The story that we decided to tell is about pride and sense of place.
And we've been told while we were reporting there that we have been the first filmmakers to return week after week to the organization to really figure out what the story is and how people feel about their neighborhood.
Do not limit your aspirations to what you think is possible for people of the same background as you, because you can always shatter ceilings.
We often get to know about countries outside the U.S. only in the context of catastrophe. We do exist between catastrophes.
Everybody is just really into what they're doing, and it's a really good thing to see, and just be surrounded by journalists who really, really, really care about the things that they're reporting on.
And if you can maintain those relationships over the course of your career, over the course of your work, those will echo and resonate and create new opportunities.
Keep in touch with each other, stay connected. This is just the beginning.
Thank you.
When I was in middle school, I had a...
So now moving on to some application specifics. So if you are interested in this fellowship, the first thing you're going to want to do is, complete that application. That application is going to include a proposal description where you tell us what your story is. You're going to let us know the general budget for your project. You'll include writing samples, other clips or maybe papers that you've written for class, as well as some references in your resume. Once we've received all those applications, the Pulitzer Center convenes a committee and we work along with the University of Wisconsin to select that final reporting fellow. That person then gets to sign their grant contract and fill out their pre-reporting paperwork to make sure they're going to get paid on time in a timely manner. Throughout the entire process, you're going to have the support of our Pulitzer Center staff, and we'll also pair you with a professional journalist advisor. This is going to be someone who has received a grant from the Pulitzer Center before, and this person is going to be familiar with either the area of the world that you're going to be reporting and traveling from or traveling in, or they're going to be really familiar with your general topic area. So as for what types of things will you be able to produce with your fellowship money? All of our reporting fellows have three main requirements. The first is, you need to have a main story, but there is a lot of flexibility within that requirement. You can choose to take the route of a written article, a text-based story. You can choose to produce a series of videos or a short documentary. Similarly, you can produce a podcast series or like a long audio piece. There will also be some element of multimedia in your project that can take the shape of maybe a photo series to accompany your article, or a photo essay to stand on its own, a short video or audio clips that maybe are interspersed throughout your work. And then finally, all of our fellows are required to write a field note. This is a personal reflection on your reporting process that's going to be written from your point of view. A lot of our fellows choose to write about maybe a challenge that they faced during the reporting process, maybe what drew them to the project in the beginning, if they had some type of connection. No matter what, all of your work is going to appear on our Pulitzer Center website, but for those who are interested, you're also more than welcome to pitch your stories to other news outlets. So we don't say, oh, you can only publish on our website. That'll be guaranteed for you, but you can also try to spread the reach of your stories through pitching to other publications if you choose to do so. And this is just a recent sampling of some of the outlets where our reporting fellow stories have appeared. As you can see, we have more local publications, Wisconsin Watch, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We also have more national or international focused, Politico, National Geographic, where one of Lawrence's stories appeared. So now I'm going to pivot to our website, pulitzercenter.org. And this first thing I'll show you is our University of Wisconsin specific page on our website. If you're interested in reading more about the specific partnership between the Pulitzer Center and your university, you can go here. And this page will also link to our previous fellows from the school, as well as all of our future fellows. And I thought at this point I would hand it over to Lawrence for a couple of minutes to talk about, anything you want to share about your project, Lawrence, maybe how you thought of your idea, anything you want to share, pretty much.
Sure. All right. Well, I'm glad to see you guys are all interested in this. I mean, I consider this one of the best opportunities of my short career so far. But yeah, my assignment focused on post-asylum life for refugees in Greece. And I got the idea because I was actually visiting Greece probably in 2018, and I met a man from Afghanistan who had recently traveled to the islands and then Athens, and he told me his story, and I said, man, one day I want to write about this. And then this Pulitzer Center opportunity came along and gave me the opportunity. But I actually became a fellow right as the pandemic hit in 2020. So My project was delayed about a whole year because I was planning to go the summer of 2020, and then pandemic delayed things, and I traveled to Greece in July of 2021. I spent the whole month there. My original story was this, exploring what post-asylum life is, and that all the news coverage at the time had been focused on the struggles of migrants who are in these terrible refugee camps. But I noticed there wasn't much reporting on kind of what happens after that refugee camp, what happens after they get out of those camps and they're actually recognized refugees. And I found that, life doesn't get too much easier. But while I was there, I met so many different people and heard so many different stories and hung out with different groups that I ended up writing a number of stories. A lot of feature stories you see right there, a refugee football team. I actually was there during the NBA championships where when the Bucks won, and obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo is from Athens, so I went to his neighborhood and kind of explored what people there were saying. And then when I came back, that's when the Taliban started or took over Afghanistan, and I had met a lot of people and refugees from Afghanistan. So I decided to write a story for USA Today about kind of what it's like to watch your country fall when you still have family there and you can never go back anyway. But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the Pulitzer Center and the support they gave me, even throughout, the program lasted longer than, or my assignment lasted longer than I expected with the delay from the pandemic, but it's just been fantastic.
Thanks, Lawrence. Lawrence is a great example of a fellow who is super flexible, and like he said, he got his grant basically right as COVID was setting in. So I'm really, really happy that you are still able to make it to Greece and obviously produce so many amazing stories. And that brings me to a point that I forgot to mention on one of my other slides, which is that apart from those three main requirements, you are welcome to produce more stories. So you're not only restricted to those deliverables. If you want to write more, you're always more than welcome to do that. I also wanted to show you just our general homepage for reporting fellow stories. If you go here, you can see just kind of the wide variety of projects and issues that we focus on. If you have a specific topic in mind that you're thinking you might want to cover with the fellowship, I would recommend you go to our website, click on journalism, and then issues right here. All of our reporting at Pulitzer Center is broken down or categorized into these issues. So if you have an idea of reporting on a specific topic, go here, see what we've written about already. If you're seeking some inspiration, it can be helpful to kind of peruse through these pages as well. If you click on one of them, it'll lead you to any story that we've recently supported that is tagged as, for this example, migration. All right. So now I wanted to backpedal a little bit to that proposal description that I mentioned earlier. So this is going to be the most important part of your application if you do decide to apply for the fellowship. And the bullet points that you're seeing now on screen, these are things you want to be thinking about as you are crafting that proposal. First of all, what is the topic that you want to report on? Along with that, is there a particular angle that you want to cover? And that's a good time to think about, what reporting has already been done on your topic? What angles have already been covered? I did mention earlier that we do have this focus at the Pulitzer Center on underreported stories. That doesn't mean that you can't cover something that's been written about a little bit. We're just looking for stories that haven't been extensively covered in national, international, or local media. I always recommend if you have a story idea in mind, do a quick Google search and see if others have written about it. You should also think about, what is the significance of your story? Why does your story matter? Why does your story matter right now? Be thinking about timeliness. Maybe there is a court case decision coming up in a few months. Maybe there is an anniversary of a certain event or natural disaster. You should be thinking about sources that you can identify. These can be people sources, but you can also think about data, books, research papers. We'll also need to know that you've considered your logistics and costs. This is something that you can illustrate to us in that budget field. And I always am sure to mention that, or I always try to mention that we certainly understand that when you're forming that budget, you're probably going to have to estimate some things, especially when it comes to flights or other travel costs, something that's really likely to fluctuate. You're more than welcome to put a range there, or just as close of an estimate as you can come up with. So don't worry too much about being ultra specific down to the cent or dollar or anything. And then finally, be thinking if your project is feasible, if you're going to be able to gain the access that you need, if you will be able to be safe while reporting this story. There are always some places that we just unfortunately won't be able to send you if there's conflict going on in the country or the region, or if they're maybe recovering from some type of natural disaster. If you are curious about, maybe is the country I'm wanting to go to, or the area, is that going to be safe? Is there going to be safety issues with that? You can reach out to us at Pulitzer Center. You can check State Department websites, CDC websites in terms of COVID, or also consider reaching out to maybe faculty or mentors on campus. And then a couple more things to consider just in general as you're forming your application. Be thinking about if you have prior experience reporting on the topic or the community that you want to cover. Not all of our fellows do have prior experience, but for those who are pitching to report maybe a sensitive story or a story that could put a source in danger or could potentially re-traumatize them, we would like to know if you have any background in that topic. Be thinking about how COVID-19 might affect your reporting. We need to make sure that you're going to be safe and also that your sources are going to be safe while reporting. I kind of already touched on this one, but be thinking about whether or not your story deals with a sensitive issue. And if it does, how are you going to be prepared to cover that? We do see your mental health as a student journalist as a top priority, and we want to make sure that that is safeguarded, as well as the mental and physical health of the sources who will be involved in that story. And then finally, on more of a logistical note, be thinking about the deliverables you want to produce. And by that, I mean the types of deliverables. I know earlier I told you about our main requirements, but in those requirements, there was a lot of flexibility. So if you're envisioning a video project, a photo heavy project, you can let us know that in your application. Before I move on to taking any questions that you have, I also wanted to show you this Reporting Fellowships homepage on our website. This page has a lot of resources, links to more resources. You can see all of our previous fellows and their projects. Here's the link to that stories page I showed you. There's that highlights video, and this video touches on a lot of the stuff that I covered during this info session. And finally, I wanted to give you guys this email address. If you are interested in the fellowship and you have a question for me or for someone else at the Pulitzer Center, please feel free to reach out to us at this email address. And with that said, that is all I have slide-wise, but now I am happy to take any questions.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm a sophomore. I was just wondering what the timeline was for this project or for this fellowship, and like how does it work with school? Would it be a summer activity? I joined a little late, so I may have missed that.
Yes, good question. So the majority of our fellows do report in the summer. So yeah, you're more than welcome to report in the summer. It won't have to interfere with any school stuff or any semester. Every once in a while, a fellow might choose to report in the following winter break. That's usually only if they have a story that is seasonal in some way. Maybe they have to go somewhere because a certain crop is being worked on at this time of year and it's only during December. But yeah, the majority of our fellows will get the grant, or everyone will get the grant in the spring semester, and then travel and work on their deliverables over the summer.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for the presentation. It was wonderful. So my name is Colleen, and I just had two quick questions. The first is, how long about should the writing samples be? Do you have any recommendations for length for those? And then I guess for the number of applicants that are potentially awarded at the university, is it just like one per year, or can there be multiple that are able to get the grant?
Yes, good questions. Writing sample wise, there is no, at least for Pulitzer Center point of view, there's no word limit on your writing samples. If you are, the one thing I'll say is if you decide to submit maybe a research paper, I would just choose a section rather than a 20-page thing, because I probably will not read all of it. And, okay, second question, there is one fellowship. You can apply as a team if you want. You would then split the money. But yeah, there's the one grant. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Just building off actually of that last question, if you were to apply as a team with someone, would that does that change how you go about doing anything at all? Or if, one person was planning on doing one form, a writing form of media, and someone was planning on doing photography, and you were a team in that way or something, does that change how you would go about the process at all?
Yeah, I would say that the only teams that we usually have, it's like one person has a specialty in one thing, maybe writing. The other person is going to specialize in photo, video. If you do decide to do a team application, just make sure you're making it clear, why you need a team in this scenario. If like the scenario I just described, one doing writing, one doing photos, they're going to be paired together. Or if it's a documentary, maybe you just need two sets of hands to more effectively film and stuff like that. Lawrence, I saw there's a question for you in the chat.
All right. USA Today. Yeah. Well, I was familiar with USA Today Network because at UW I did some work for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and now I work for Indianapolis Star, and both those papers are part of the network. So I was familiar with the network, but also, that story came up after I got back from Greece, but I still am in touch with almost all of my contacts in Greece. So when the situation in Afghanistan started to really unfold, I started reaching back out and doing that. And I just wrote the story without even telling USA Today or anybody else. I had pitched it around to other outlets too. And eventually USA Today said yes. So I don't think really my connection mattered there. Mainly, I just look up kind of all the editors at a newspaper and see, who would be dealing with this topic. Like for USA Today, it's the foreign affairs editor. For like the Guardian, it's like the Europe editor. They have all different kinds of editors. So mainly, I just see who is best to pitch the story to, and I send them an email explaining, who I am, what this story is. And for this project, at least, almost all my stories I just wrote beforehand, and then showed them a draft, because I feel like some editors like to see, oh, they already did this, it's easier, instead of, having them have to worry about what I'm going to do. So I just wrote the story and sent it over and say, hey, are you interested? And they said, yeah. And I see another one. How long? I was in Greece for a month, from like July 4th to July 31st or something like that.
Is it that everyone who like gets to work with you has to have some sort of like background in journalism or some sort of reporting, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah,
you.
so we have students of all different majors and backgrounds throughout the program. Some of the schools we partner with actually don't have a journalism department or offer any journalism classes. We also work with a lot of public health students. So a background in journalism isn't necessary. It might be helpful, but we do pair you with a mentor, I think I mentioned. So that person is usually very helpful in terms of asking journalistic questions, whether it's writing questions or ethics questions. And we're also, myself and Kim Sawyer, who's our program director, are also always trying to be available for you if you do have issues or questions. Another thing that we've started actually during the pandemic is all of our fellows get to go to this virtual orientation. It's going to be a week long on Zoom. And in that orientation, we talk a little bit about, writing, editing, that stuff. So in short, journalism background is not necessary.
Follow-up question. So you said any form of reporting, right? Does social media count for any form of reporting, or it has to be like the traditional form, mainstream? Thanks.
Do you mean as a writing sample in the application, or something that you produce with the fellowship?
Something that you produce with the fellowship.
Okay, good questions. Yeah, it wouldn't. All of our fellows are welcome to do like tweets and other social stuff. In addition, it won't be enough to only pitch to do like a tweet series or something like that. But if you envision something like that in addition to your project, would love to see that. Hopefully that helps. I think Aaliyah might have put that email address. Yes, reportingfellows@pulitzercenter.org. That is in the chat if anyone has questions that you think of later. Oh, maybe another question.
I do have another question. I'm sorry. Okay. So what if hypothetically, because I feel like I have a few ideas of what I'd like to do, and one is something I've already written on before, but like, let's say that you are in the field and then, you learn more about a different piece of information. Are you able to kind of change your direction to have it be different from what you originally applied for in terms of topic?
Yes, 100%. I would say that actually happens more often than not with the fellowship, because Well, no one does like a 180-degree pivot, like completely leaves their original idea behind, but definitely like when you're in the field, you're going to meet people that you never thought you would meet. Someone will connect, person A will connect you to person B, C, D, and so on. So I'm sure Lawrence maybe experienced that while in the field, being led to just kind of new angles. So yeah, definitely able to explore new angles once you start your reporting process. Oh, and I did forget to mention that we do have a Pulitzer Center Twitter, and I always recommend for students to follow it because this is where we're sharing all of our opportunities, internship opportunities, job openings. Sometimes we facilitate additional fellowships apart from these annual ones. We'll put out a special call surrounding if we get specific funding to tell more climate stories or to tell more gender related stories, we'll put out special calls for that. And as students of campus partners, you guys are always eligible for that. So if you have a Twitter, feel free to follow us and yeah, just stay tuned of other opportunities.
And if anyone else doesn't have any questions, I did want to say one more time for those of you who joined us a little later, my name's Aaliyah McCord. I'm the Associate Director of the African Studies program on campus. I put my email address in the chat. I'm happy to discuss this opportunity more with you. African Studies is facilitating the application process this year, but your project doesn't have to be about Africa. It can be about anywhere in the world. We're just stepping in on behalf of the International Division to facilitate this process. So you don't limit yourself to Africa. I mean, I'd love to see people reporting on Africa, of course, but you don't have to limit yourself to the continent. And the application, I put a link to the application in the chat bar as well. It's a common application that's shared with our other funding opportunities. So if you're a graduate student, you're welcome to apply for multiple funding opportunities at the same time. And if you're an undergraduate student and you find anything confusing in that application, just let me know and I'd be happy to sort it out with you. The intention with this common application is just to minimize administrative burden for our faculty and students who are applying for multiple awards at once.
And it looks like that deadline is March 10th. Do I have that right, Aaliyah?
That is correct. Thanks, Libby. Yeah, the deadline is March 10th. That's the Thursday right before spring break. And we anticipate releasing, we anticipate that the decisions will be made in early April for the final decisions to be made in early April.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm excited to see so many of you are interested and best of luck to you. Please feel free to email me if you want. Follow our Twitter. And yeah, thank you, Aaliyah, for helping me organize this. And thank you, Lawrence, for being here and for sharing your contact information as well. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everybody can feel free to reach out on my email and, follow me on Twitter if you want.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Libby. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so much.